Shoes on. Got to wear a nice pair of shoes, haven't you, Rosie?
Look at that. Do you see the little one in the background having a picture taken with the people love having them in their
Have you seen they've
areas.
had to put a fence up around it now? Stop people
protect
getting
it.
too close.
And people have stolen bits of plaster, haven't they?
Taking
The whole wall away.
Yeah.
Time now, 11 minutes past 7. They have been some of the most powerful images of the week. 156 women standing up, one by one, in a Michigan courtroom, sharing their stories of abuse.
They were speaking at the sentencing of Larry Nasser, a former US gymnastics doctor who's been jailed for 175 years for sexually abusing young athletes.
The judge in the case said she wanted to give every woman affected the chance to speak out. We can hear now what some of them had to say.
I will always love gymnastics, but I will never be able to look at the sport the same because of you. Now, as I look to the future, I plan to pursue a career in criminal justice. I'm hoping that by working to put monsters like you away, I might be able to stop the nightmares and start healing.
It looks like a courtroom full of survivors who carry deep wounds. Women and girls who have banded together to fight for themselves because no one else would do it. Women and girls who carry scars that will never fully heal, but who have made the choice to place the guilt and shame on the only person to whom it belongs, the abuser.
Larry was the Olympic doctor, and he molested me at the 2012 London Olympic Games. Abusers, your time is up. The survivors are here, standing tall, and we are not going anywhere.
Your decision to assault was precise, calculated, manipulative, devious, despicable. I wouldn't send my dogs to you, sir. You do not deserve to walk outside of a prison ever again.
Well, let's speak to Lydia Ward, who's with us, a survivor of sexual abuse and the trustee of the charity Safeline. Lydia, good morning.
Good morning.
I don't know if you were able to hear much of that, and we've seen a lot of it, of course, in the media over the last week. Your reaction to it, what do you make of what you heard?
I think that the sentencing is hugely appropriate, and I think it's a massive step forward. I think the way the whole trial's been conducted seems to be sort of quite revolutionary in some ways. The fact that all of these women were able to give a statement and say how they were feeling is very different to anything I've certainly heard of before. And I think there is just a huge step change in how people are feeling about talking about sexual abuse now. The fact that it isn't such a taboo, it isn't a, oh, that's a little bit awkward, how do we deal with it, let's just not bother. So I feel as though this case is really sort of bringing things to the fore a lot more.
And perhaps also making it clear to other survivors of sexual abuse that they can speak up about this, because your own experience, which I will ask you about, tell us about your experience, because I'm reading about that, words such as secret, private, you know, these things shouldn't be spoken about, that whole feeling of who do I talk to? Hopefully this will help that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, language around this is so important. It's so important that we refer to people that have been through sexual abuse as survivors, because they are people who have survived something. They are not victims here. This is about survivorship and moving forwards and reclaiming the power that is taken from you when you have been abused.
What happened to you, Lydia?
So I was initially first abused by a very close family friend, someone that my parents and everybody completely trusted, never would have expected anything to happen, as is so often the case. You know, I'm from a very nice background. It's, you know, you wouldn't expect it to have happened in my family. It's that sort of situation. And there was someone that I was left with very sporadically to be looked after by, and between the ages of 3 and 7, that person sexually abused me. I managed in my own way to put a stop to it by saying to my parents that I really didn't want to be left with that person anymore, and I wanted to go with them and do the shopping or whatever it was that they were doing at that time. And I was questioned. My mum said, oh, that's, you know, why don't you want to stay here? But I didn't say anything, because at that age, you know something's not right, but you're told it's a secret. We're always told that you should never share a secret. And again, it comes back to language. You know, nowadays, I always talk about happy surprises. You can have a happy surprise. A surprise means it's got an end date, and when that person finds out, they're going to feel happy about it. But you don't have secrets. And that's a really important thing. And then again, for me, I was abused again by a different person And again, another trusted family friend at the age of, I think it was about 12, 13. It probably sounds a bit strange that I'm vague on it, but your brain keeps these things from you. I wasn't 16. I was 16 when I first started having flashbacks and suddenly went, oh, goodness me, wow, did that really happen? And then I went through a huge process of trying to come to terms with it and trying to push it back away. And do I ever say anything? I was 30 when I first told my parents, and they were the last people I ever wanted to have to tell, because you don't want to have to explain to them that this happened under their watch, as it were, because you don't want them to feel blame or guilty or anything. My parents didn't have a clue it was happening. They were devastated when they found out. And I'm one of the lucky ones. Not everyone has that experience. You
talk a lot there about surviving. It's about power and control.
Yes.
And getting to the point when you can confront what's happened to you, but you take back that control. What was it for you that got you to that position, said, I can now deal with this?
Well, I was very fortunate in the fact that I found a charity called Safeline, and they specialise in helping survivors of sexual abuse. So I'd seen other therapists beforehand and had sort of tinkered around the edges, but really it got to a point and I was like, I need to get into the detail of this, and that's what that charity enabled me to do.
In this case, how important is it that the survivors waived their right to anonymity?
I think it's tremendous when people feel able to do that. I don't think there should be pressure on other survivors to have to do it. But the more of us that feel that we have the support network around us to be able to do it, the more we can close the taboo on this. So I think if people feel able to, it's a tremendous thing to do.
Lydia, it's been a joy talking to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Nice to see you. Thanks very much.
17 minutes past